Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Souls. I'm your host, Sara Troy, and my wonderful guest who's been here before is Robert Clancy. He wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and now he has another book called Soul
Cyphers.
Thank
Yes.
you. I had it right there in my head. Soul Cyphers. So, people talk about heart talk and they're making heart connections, which is absolutely wonderful, but people still don't address the soul, that beautiful divine source that comes through us, that gives us our knowledge, our wisdom, our ability to actually understand and see what we're here to do in this world. And so we need a lot more soul talk, but we need to actually understand that soul connection, how it resonates with the heart, how it lifts our spirit, how it helps us understand what's going on in our mind. So we need some ciphering. Let's take some ciphering with Robert today. He also is a TV host. He's an author extraordinaire. And you're going to, when you tune into his TV channel with his co-host, Lisa, you are going to be so uplifted with the people that he has on. And he's an illuminator, aren't you, my darling? Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. I'm actually, I wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. It was Doug Adams who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Sorry. Okay,
and he's
right,
actually
yes.
on the other side now.
Yeah, exactly. My apologies.
So I'm not him. I'm still
Right,
here.
exactly, right, yes. And yeah, just The Hitchhikers, I did read the book and I really did enjoy it. Soul talk.
Yes.
People just don't get what the soul is, do they? We hear so much talk about you've got to connect with your heart, but it's like, where do you get this divine wisdom, this knowingness, this knowledge that is true to be? And people are confused to where it comes from, and it comes from the soul, doesn't it?
Yes. It's definitely from within, and when you look within, you'll never be without.
Right.
And that's sort of how I approach life. But I'm also a programmer. I'm a very logical person, and I also had this divine experience. And the first time I tapped into it was the first time I meditated. Mm-hmm. So they both coincided. So I had a divine experience with my meditation experience, and that was when I was 19. I was also at the lowest point of my life. And, basically an angel manifested in front of me. I kept this a secret for 30 years from most people that know me, including my own family. And I told my father in 2012, the night my mother was going to pass away. I knew she was going to pass around 2:30. It's what I was given. Mm-hmm. And I told him what I just told you. Yeah. About my meditation experience and the angel, and that there is heaven's real, there is love and this divine love, and we're all held and everything's going to be okay. And he was at peace with that.
Ready for it, right? We can't speak into people. They always say when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And it can be very frustrating for the teacher because you want everybody to experience this.
Right.
I've always been a soul awakener, and trying to get people past the fear. Let's get past this molasses of fear that you're living in, and step into that beautiful trust of soul and spirit. Because when you're there, you're safe, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's understanding that there's a bigger hand at play, and that's really the key. Is that although things don't make sense that are immediately around you, similar to, if you only had one piece of the puzzle, or if you were so close to a painting that you couldn't see the whole thing. But when you back up or you put it all together, it makes a beautiful picture. And there's seemingly things that are in there that are negative, or that you perceive that way. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe somebody close to you crossed over or passed away, and you're angry or you're blinded. And when you pull back, we're all going to be on the other side. Yeah. The immediate things that are happening now are going to be a distant memory, a year, 2 months, a year, 5 years from now, whatever it is that you're going through. And you'll just look back sometimes and I try to laugh at those moments because you didn't really realize what was happening in that moment until you
Right.
pull back.
Yes. And I think one of the beautiful things is about looking back is that when you're in something, I'm never going to get through this, you're doomed and all of that. And then you get
Right.
through it, you learn your strength, your tenacity, your courage. There's something inside of you driving you forward. And then one day you look back and go, my goodness, how far I've come.
Yeah.
And anytime you're facing something else, how can I get through this? And the little memory taps you on the shoulder and saying, you faced worst before. You
Yes.
can do this again. Now you're actually loaded up with knowledge and trust and faith and
Right.
how to do it. So every time we're faced with something, it doesn't mean you're not going to be faced with something when you step into that soul alignment. It just means you're going to know what kind of energy to give it, what kind of wisdom to give it, and
Correct.
wisdom to learn from it, because there's always a
Yes.
lesson, isn't there?
There is, and it's part of living, and that's
Yeah.
really the whole point of life is
Mhm.
that you're here to learn that lesson or whatever that is. And at age 19, I was a straight A student up to that point. I was doing very well, and then my whole life fell apart in about 2 months.
Mm.
I had several friends commit suicide. I had other ones get killed in car accidents, and then my mother was having a nervous breakdown. My dad was drinking again and
Mm.
hiding that. And the whole structure fell apart.
Yeah.
My close friends were away at college, and I stopped caring.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
what actually saved me was surrendering. Because I mean, I was literally at the last of my nights. That last night that I meditated, I said out loud, "If there's a God, I need to see something, and if you exist, you need to heal me. You need to help."
Hmm.
And then I started this 3 hour meditation, which, I just stayed focused from like midnight till about 3 a.m. And that's when the light appeared, and then the angel manifested from the light.
Hmm.
And it was there, seemed like about an hour.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something I saw in a blink of an eye. It was
Right.
gone. I got to study each feather in the wings
Mm.
and this entity. And I was just in pure awe of the total peace and love that
Yes.
was around me.
Hmm.
And she touched me in the forehead,
Hmm.
which unlocked everything in me.
Third eye.
And it
Yes.
unfolded more in 2012 after I told my father. It was actually on Mother's Day, the day before that. And it was December 1st, 2012. I woke up with this clarity, and
Hmm.
then all the words started pouring in. I had spurts of them over the years, but I wrote 61,000 inspirational quotes and
Wow.
words and put them up on my Facebook page because that's what I was guided to do, just share them.
Right. Right. And that is a lot. Because 2012 was the ascension of frequency, the ascension of vibration, which was opening everybody up, to that new energy. And we have seen since then an absolute abundant amount of people that are soul and heart awakening. Of course, not everybody actually understands, what am I waking to? Everything about me, my senses are more in tuned. I'm being more aware. I'm seeing things, but I still don't quite comprehend it. And that, of course, is that part of that wakening up, isn't it?
Hmm.
Take your steps. The people that have gone before you, their hand is there to help you understand what you have woken up to, discover
Right.
what your gift is, what your purpose is here, because we're all here in service of one another, in
Right.
service of this beautiful world. And that is part of the lesson that we have here. It's not to suffer, though we are going to go
Right.
through struggles, because that is
Hmm.
part of the earthly lesson, to
Right.
step into our beautiful, meaningful purpose.
And yeah, and it unfolded in so many profound ways, with especially with the words, because I was given my life path too from that
Mm.
moment at 19.
Hmm.
So I've known the playbook. It was just that, think of being handed the book, but then shown the table of contents, and then guided not even to worry about the table of contents and just live.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it unfolded. And then the words just started, and everything inspires me. Like, I can look at a flower
Hmm.
and words will come in from, let's say it's a rose. And I have my favorite quotes over the year, since 2012, that just stay, and they're all stored as pictures. And this one I see, you're walking through this out a door into a garden of life. And the words are, Some people leave their homes and walk in the garden of life, and they encounter thorns and it ruins their day. And
Ah,
when I walk that same path and encounter those thorns, I realize that there are roses nearby reaching for the light. You just need to look up to see them. And I
mm-hmm,
actually visualize the words.
mm-hmm.
I feel the words, and then I see all the math behind the words.
Right. Yes. That's another thing altogether. Is that the words themselves, beyond meaning, have energy.
Hmm.
And there's, of course, there's the numerology and understanding all of what that energy and that frequency means.
Right.
I'm a knowingness channeler, so it's just whenever I open up, whatever knowledge I need to know in the moment is going to be there. And,
Yeah.
I'll have a saying that will come up and I'll look for the right picture to put it on and I post it out there. And sometimes I just stimulate it by a picture and let the words come.
Yeah.
And there's never really much thought about it,
No, they just
right?
pop in,
Yeah.
and then the other is I'll say one of those quotes, and then almost like it spawns
Hmm.
more quotes just from that, because it's like little buds that come off of it.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
see other
exactly.
things,
Exactly.
derivatives.
Are you like that in your writing as well? Is it something that you may have a gist of what you want to do, but when the fingers hit the keyboard, off you go?
There have been times where I've just put my hands on the keyboard
Hmm.
and typed, and I didn't even realize what I was typing until I read
Right.
it back, and then
Yeah.
there was something profound there.
Yes. Yeah, that is the kind of writer I am. I very rarely know, or maybe there's a thought I want to do, and then I get out of my own way and let the fingers type. And
Yeah, like I
um,
can pick like a concept like miracles,
mhm,
and words would be: a miracle occurs every time a child smiles.
mhm,
Just notice the small moments in life, because that is where the greatest opportunities occur, and words will
absolutely.
just come in like that.
Yeah. Yes, and that is a form of channeling. You're opened up to the universe, and I think these small little snippets of wisdom stay with people more. They open them up. It's great
Hmm.
to have a book. It's great to have tutorials or whatever, and that's for the people who are really ready to absorb the next
Yeah.
level. But when you're looking at enticing people, there are people walking around, they're feeling lost, confused, anxious, maybe even a little empty. And it's like, what is the meaning of my life? Why am I here? Does not everybody ask that at some
Yeah,
point?
right.
And it's like, if you get out of your way and step into your heart, soul, and spirit presence, and you're willing to take, I always say, stepping out of the abyss, blind, deaf, and dumb, in order to see, hear, and feel. If
Hmm.
we get out of the head thought and trust the heart thought and the soul knowledge, all that we need to know, we will know. But this is a little noggin at the top of our shoulders
Yeah.
likes to dictate everything, doesn't it?
Hmm. And I'm especially guilty of that. I've grown up as, analytical,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly analyzing what happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
how these words, there's this other voice that I'm seeing or hearing, in the sense of, not like I don't hear a voice in my head, but I wake up and there's, especially in the morning, the words are already written, and
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of have like, oh yeah, and I write it down, and
Right.
then I post it and I go on my way. It's
Exactly. Exactly. And
it just comes in that way.
I think one of the things that we have to do is this big word, allow. We again, we've got this human thing of, I need to be in control. I've got to follow
Mhm.
a manual. I must do what everybody else has done. And I think what we have to do is surrender to allowing,
Yeah,
right? Because we have to realize we have no control. That is the control we have, is that we
right,
have no control. The only control we have is over the choice to which path we're going to take and in which attitude we're going to take it.
right. Yeah, there's when and I am a person that tries to control things, in the sense that, being a coder, I have to control
Yes.
there, but I also know when to surrender
Yeah.
and let go and let this unfold.
Yeah.
And the great example is, especially anyone that has children, if you try to blaze their trail through the forest, you're not doing them any good.
No.
And when my son was very young, he would ask questions like, why is the sky blue? And I would just ask him, like, the permission to say, do you really want to know why? Instead of saying, well, God has a giant blue crayon and just paints the sky with that.
Yeah.
I told him why the sky is blue. I never talked to him as if he was a child. I talk
Right.
to him as a person who's trying to study what's
Yes.
around him.
Yes.
And then when I, went to the part where, how do I guide him to be like this, or do I let him become who he is?
Mm-hmm.
And when he reaches the forest, do I show him the path and the entrance to the forest, or do I blaze the trail for him?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead, I showed him where the entrance was and gave him some basic pointers. And this is in the sense of his first relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when he had this first relationship, I said, these are some things that from my perspective, I can see that you're going to have to deal with this
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And they're going to get worse in this area unless they're dealt with.
Yeah.
And he's, no. He jumped in the car and went 300 miles an hour. And then after the car crashed,
Oh no.
not physically in a car. I'm talking about his relationship
Right.
started
Yeah.
going 300 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he hit the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back and he just said one thing to me. He said, "You were absolutely correct, but I needed to learn this on my own."
Yes. The thing is, all we can do with people is share our knowledge and, give them that to put in their own backpack. It's I have a program called The View of Life, which I've been doing for 42 years now, which I got from a beautiful psychiatrist in Rome. And then along with my own spiritual intuitiveness, it's been rounded out. And it is about taking the journey of life. We have to realize I am taking responsibility. I am choosing. I am becoming. I'm going to take this path. But along the way, people are going to give you tools and wisdom. And you put them in your backpack. And then you go into that forest. And you may want to follow a trail that's gone before, or you may want to create your own trail. And you never know who you're going to meet along the line.
Right.
You could meet a troll that could be your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for us to say, watch out for the troll, because this person may see something of the troll we don't. But
Correct.
the point is they have that knowledge, and that's the only thing that you can give them, the access to their own wisdom and some tools and skills to help them along the way. Then you have to let go.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard as a parent. I've got 3. Let go. And then, God, you've got some work to do.
Yeah.
Guide them well.
Well, he turned out all right. So
yeah, mine did too. But I've got a few gray hairs with their names on it. I can tell you. But it's funny enough, because they're all, kind of, my youngest will be 30 this year. The others are 34 and 36. And now they're on the other scale. They're mentoring younger people.
right.
And then you kind of, oh gosh, I'm old now, because they're under their interpretation, and realizing, the journeys they took, that a lot of steps they took, they wish they hadn't. They wish that they had listened. But underneath it all, I mean, my son once said to me, and I always get emotional over this, is that he was at a crossroads in life. And if he had taken that path, I don't think it would have been a return.
Mm-hmm.
It was a path that just way too dark. And he said when he was at that crossroads, my face and my love for him made him turn back.
Yeah.
And so we can't always be with them, but when we give them a part of our soul, our heart, and our spirit, and pour it in them as kids as they grow up, then we have to let them go in trust. And hope that that love that's in them is enough to pull them back from their brink, from, to come up as a light bulb now and again to say, don't go down that path. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah, and there's reverse climbs, and sometimes somebody has to learn the lesson, but also you can't, leave somebody on that journey either. Right. So there's sometimes that they need to take things in their own hands to ask for help and say, hey, I was stupid. I went hike down this trail into the desert and I didn't bring enough water. And then there's the person that's passing them on that trail seeing, hey, that person
needs some help,
didn't bring enough water and they need help. They're not looking so good.
Right.
And that's where there's a lot of trouble, because people do not want to walk into pain.
I know.
As a martial artist, I learned that we use pain compliance to remove a threat. And so we go into the pain. So for instance, somebody swinging a bat at you or a stick, What's your natural reaction when somebody swings something at you, like a golf club, a bat, or something? You're going to back up.
You're going to back up and put your hands up, or
You're going
something,
to
the
put
way
your
to
hands
protect
up and
yourself.
back up and
Yeah.
try to get away.
Mm.
And that is the worst position to be in, because all you're doing is putting yourself at the end of the stick, which is where the worst energy is.
Right.
What you need to do is break everything in your brain that says back up, and you go into it.
Right.
You go toward the weapon.
Yes.
Because the least amount of energy is right here at the handle.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the stick breaks the speed of sound. That's when you can hear that whip in the air. You want the speed of sound hitting you, or do you want this dull little handle part?
Yeah.
So we're not trained as martial arts. We're trained to go in, but people are not. And I learned that when somebody is struggling or they're in pain, you also need to go into that, because that's the way that you can help them.
It's you have to go through. There is no avoiding, right? You can't go over, under. You can't pay someone else to do it for you. There is no downloadable app that's going to do it for you. You know, part of life's journey is to go through it. It is your soul journey. It's also your soul contract that you signed before you even came here, right? And it will be as difficult as your resistance is.
Well, I know I signed something, because they showed up to call me. They're like, hey, I don't know if you remember when you signed this dotted line that you're going to help millions of people and teach them about love and kindness. Well, guess what? I brought the contract with me.
To remind you, yes, your signature on the dotted line.
Bam, right there. It's signed with love, so it's got to be real.
Yes.
And it was Gabriel that actually, that's the name I was left with. Although there were no words ever spoken, it was all communicated with imagery, thought, and feeling.
Yes.
And almost like a puzzle, I had to figure things out. Like, and I did piece things together, because I was shown this overwhelming feeling that I was going to help youth. Yeah. And I was going to teach them kindness. And there was a rainstorm that I was shown, and all these ripples, and the ripples were the kindness waves coming off of each of these individuals, but there was an entire rainstorm. Well, I ended up volunteering for the last 30 years with this organization called Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership. And there's high school sophomores. And I didn't put it all together until like last year about the rain.
Right.
Until one of the students came up to me and they said, I hear that you do this amazing rain cheer, and everyone remembers their experience in this conference from that cheer that you do. Will you do that cheer this weekend for us? And I've done it pretty much every year for 30 years, this incredible orchestra of rain. And then I realized, that's it. That's what the angel was showing me. Like, you're going to inspire them just by being with them.
Yeah.
And bringing them to that. And I remember talking to myself in the mirror after this, and I thought, how am I going to inspire youth? I am a youth. I'm only 19. Like, what message do I have? And it was just, never worry or have fear or doubt. It's going to come, and we will give you the message. You already have the message. We're just going to
It's unraveling it, isn't it? Because, you know, I've always been a soul teacher. You know, for me, it was difficult living as a human, because I've always been a very spiritual person, you know, played with dead people growing up, you know, always saw things that people didn't see, and people who were passing over would come to me, you know, to be shown their exit, or words of wisdom that they wanted to leave behind. And this was so normal for me. But I couldn't understand when I talked about it with other people that they'd look at me a little sideways. And so it was really hard for me to kind of understand, what is this? I didn't look upon it as a gift. I didn't look upon it as a calling. It was just something I was. And
well, I was one of those people, and being so analytical and so science-based. And then I had the paranormal experience. And I can't deny what happened to me, and I decided in 2012 that I need to live my truth, and I need to own this. And as much as I thought, you know, are people going to think I'm crazy and say, okay, you saw an angel, the angel touched him in the forehead? Well, the only proof that I have, go read the 61,000 words that God knows where they came
Right,
from
right.
because I wrote them down.
Right. And we don't need to prove anything. That's the point, right? Is that,
Right.
the part of the I am is I am, this is. And it's, we are what we are in this moment. I'm a
Right.
channeler. I know that I'm a channeler of knowledge. It's not me knowing it. I remember going on a cruise. It was my single in training after my divorce, right? But the
Hmm.
youngest people on the boat were 70. So not so much single in training. So I was reading The Alchemist, and I went and found a nice little corner to read The Alchemist, and people would seek me out with their problems, and I had the answers. It's not me having the answers, I just had the answers for them. And that has been no matter what I've done in my life, career of any sort. It's always been that people seek me out for something. And 6, 7 years ago, somebody read for me, and she said, "You're going to do something on the internet that's going to change and save lives." At that
Hmm.
time, I was supporting an electric motor that was none like any other in the world, very, very unique. And I thought, electric motor, internet, saving lives, I just don't see how this computes. It went by the wayside. Its
Hmm.
technology led this person down into a program of artificial intelligence now that he's working with Microsoft.
Hmm.
For me, because of the redirect and the complete crash of everything, I ended up being invited to be a radio host on another network. And now it's led 6 years later, 5 years of my own, on this path where I've had actually people come back and saying, this show changed my life. And so
Hmm.
the thing is, we have no idea where we're going to
Right.
be
And
led
I've
to.
had that too. And it's
Right?
just,
Or the struggles that, we kind of think, oh, despair, where am I now? What's the point of living? And all of that. And then bing bong, this door opens up. And the thing is, don't analyze it, trust it, just go through, step into our exploratory, adventurous selves, and it will
mine
be
is,
revealed.
I became at peace when I was shown these things. And so I did this exercise where I tried to one up every day something worse that would
Mm,
happen to me. And
mm,
I did it as long as I could. And I always saved death for the end. And when I ran out of ideas, I started asking other people. And I heard every horrific thing possible that,
mm-hmm,
could happen. And then one day I ran out of ideas. I started repeating them, same themes, different, but very similar. And I had death. And the next day I thought, well, I'm done. That was it. That's the end. That was death. And now I can stop worrying about this or thinking about it. And the next day I was able to one up death
mm,
with a very profound thought
mm-hmm,
that the worst thing that can ever happen to you is losing your ability to help someone else.
right,
And it can never happen unless you allow it to, because
right,
what you leave behind in other people, your legacy,
mm-hmm,
can continue to help people long after you're gone. And I had something, a gift, because on December 1st, 2012, when I started posting these words, there was a horrific car accident nearby my house. And 2 high school couples were affected. A boy in one couple and a girl in another were killed in the accident
mm,
instantly. They were hit by another young man who was speeding, drunk, on drugs, and texting at the same
oh,
time, and hit this car with these other individuals who were the pillars of their high schools
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and took their lives.
mm-hmm,
Well, the day I started writing those words, I continued. And in January, the family of the girl contacted me and said, I wrote some very profound things that described their daughter's life in one sentence. And they put it on her headstone.
oh,
And
wow,
my words are now carved in granite.
mm-hmm.
And they'll be here long after I'm gone.
Not even in the
Yeah.
granite, to be in the heart of the souls,
Of everyone that
of
has
everyone that
stopped
reads.
by
Mm-hmm,
that grave site
mm-hmm,
for the last 4 years,
right,
4 or 5 years,
yeah.
it's just, it's like that, when you think about it, that this just continues to go.
And the thing
And
is, we don't do our work, for the lights or the glory, because there is no room for ego in this.
right.
We can take ownership. We can take certainly a certain amount of pride, of, you know, the accomplishments when you do get feedback that what you're
Right.
doing is really working, you know, and it really is helping people. But
Yes.
the moment ego steps into it, you start losing the energy, you start losing the power, you start losing the meaning of it. And it's just so gratifying, though, to know that whatever you're doing has touched someone, because
Yeah.
it hasn't just touched them for a moment. It's
And
a
that's the other,
ripple that keeps rippling out.
I was really thinking about it today because I'm doing a presentation next week on influence
Mm-hmm.
and creating influence. And what's interesting is all the people are, they want, how do I build up and get, I'm close to 750,000 people on my Facebook page, and I have the influence in those things. The most profound message that I have for them is not that I posted to get 750,000 or
Right.
1 million people. I posted the messages because if one person read it and one person was helped or saved, I did my
Yes.
job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's the message that they're going to go.
Yes.
They're going to wait for this nugget of wisdom that I'm going
Right.
to say, here's how you build up 1 million people.
One at a time.
By saving one at a time.
Yeah. But that's what people don't understand. I've got to reach millions of people. Well, it's not you going out reaching the millions of the people. It's you reaching one person that then shares it with another, and then another and another. And that's the beautiful ripple effect, or the spider's web that goes out. Yes.
From the heart.
If you don't do it from here, it hasn't got the energy or the meaning behind it. You know, are you just spouting words, or are you spouting love? You know?
Right. You can tell when somebody's a little bit out of alignment with that, because their messages that they post or write are about people should realize the importance of love, because if they had the importance of love, it's going to help the world. So they'll write it that way instead of saying, if you reach into your heart and discover the peace and beauty there and share it with another person, then you've made a difference in this world.
Yeah.
And now I'm speaking to you, the individual, not the people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're very much on the same thing there. You know, I'll get people, well, if you've got 5,000 followers, I'll come on your show. And I said, you're not for the show.
Right.
You're not for the station. You know,
I was thinking about that too, that if they're running these summits, and sometimes you say you must have a reach of 20,000. That's because they're thinking with this. They're thinking, I need to scrape traffic off of you, rather than let me think about the message. And when that message resonates and I believe in what I'm doing, that'll all happen. And that's the way I always approach it. I put, when I'm talking to people for the summits, there's people that no one knows, that don't have any reach at all, but they have a message. And every person has a message. You have a message that needs to be shared. And that's really the key, is thinking about that in that way of the individual again. And it's more important to pull back and think. And that's the other piece that I want to share next week on this webinar that I'm doing.
Right. And the thing is, I call it inspiration for invitation, because when you've inspired someone, you've invited them to step into their own lives, maybe using the tools, maybe just being inspired because you managed to do it. And we never, people say, well, again, how many people listening? And I said, all those that are ready to hear. I'm a specialty station. I'm not a 15 quick minute thing. I am a whole hour, sometimes longer. But what you are getting here is nuggets from people's life's journeys, what they've learned, the wisdom they've learned, the heart and soul that has had them go through it to help you on your journey of life. If you haven't got the time to hear it, if you haven't got the time to really feel it, then you're not ready for the message. So I'm kind of, I'm university stuff.
There's a message within each of you that are listening and watching, because that message is beautiful.
Yes.
And you have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And, when you say, I don't have a book, or I can't write a book, or I don't have anything interesting to say, or those things, then you just haven't looked close enough to your heart or deep enough in there.
Right. You're still thinking with your head. Yes. I've had people, like there's a blind blogger, and Maxwell, a wonderful gentleman, and he had written something on a blog, and I really was inspired by it. And I said, I want to interview you. And well, now he's, gone on to write books. He went to New York City for New Year's Eve on his own. I documented the journey. He's now doing his own podcast. And this story came out over and over again, because when you step up and show people, yes, they can, You
Yeah.
too can do this. They suddenly start seeing something in themselves. Well, I
Right.
don't have to be rich or famous or have the ABAs, the BBAs, or, the 50,000 followers. I have got a story that could have an impact. And those are the stories I love to share
Well, I
because,
was talking about it. There was a young man in my son's high school, and they graduated. But while he was in there, some kids would sort of laugh or chuckle because every day he was putting himself out there on YouTube and
Mhm,
creating a daily video. And he's got, it doesn't matter if one person watched it or
right.
20 or 50 or 100. It didn't matter. He would do it and put it out there, and he had a message. And my son yesterday, he called it up and he said, yep, he's still posting. He's doing it every day. He hasn't
Yep.
stopped.
Good
And he
for
said,
him.
I got to give him a lot of respect because it takes a lot to put yourself out there. And I
Yeah,
said, I'm glad you recognize that because it
absolutely.
does.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is why are we so afraid
Yeah.
to put ourselves out there? Because the human aspect of society is, I'm going to judge you.
Right.
I'm going to ridicule you. I'm going to demean you. I'm going to put you in a little box with a label on it. And that human kind of thinking is what is causing the detriment, the dis-ease, the anxiety, and the disconnect in the world. When we start looking at people from the inside out, then we see the beauty. A quick story here of a wonderful girl called Keshi. She was a burn victim in a plane crash. Only 2 survived, 65% over her body. She's had hundreds of operations, but she's gone through school. She has a
Yeah.
foundation, and she ended up on America's Got Talent, singing and
Mhm.
going all the way to the finals. Because when people first saw her, they saw the burn victim, because
Right.
her entire face and everything had to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
When she started singing, they felt and saw her inner beauty
Yeah.
in every song she did, and it just completely changed the perspective of what beauty
Mhm.
is. Now,
Yeah.
I wish we could take that veil off everybody and see the beauty inside.
Yeah, and I grew up with that too, where there was a family that, had a horrific accident,
Mhm.
and they two of the sisters were burned. And so I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And I grew up knowing what true beauty is because
Yes.
I saw it when she came back from the hospital. And you know what the beauty was? The first sister that came back, my brother was kind of like her protector. They were about a year difference in age, and she's 4 years older than me, and my brother was 5 years older than me. And he came outside with this anger, like, this drunk driver that did this to
Mm.
your family and killed your mother and burned you and your sister and your dad and destroyed your other sister's wedding because it was on a rehearsal night for the
Oh, no.
wedding when this happened, and all these things. And he said, I've been holding this in for months. And he said, I want nothing more to see that guy.
Hmm.
And she said, yeah, me too. And he said, yeah, right. And she said, because all I want to do is give him a hug because I've forgiven him.
Right.
And that's when I learned that lesson at age
Mm.
10. That's the
Hmm.
beauty that family brought back to us in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone in that neighborhood was the
Yeah.
beauty of forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a massive one. I've got 3 children, and I couldn't imagine if anybody hurt them, what I would do. Obviously go into
Right.
mother mode. But I did a show on a guy who was driving with his pregnant wife and 2 children. A drunk driver smashed into them, killing all of the kids and his pregnant wife and injuring him. But he was a pastor. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, how can I stand up there and preach
And do it.
forgiveness and love? So he ended up forgiving this young 17-year-old who was just a stupid, stupid
Yeah.
mistake. And
Mm-hmm.
he ended up helping him turn his life around and
Yeah.
let go of the pain. Now, I hope and never have to be tested like that, but I
Yeah.
would also hope that I have enough love within me and
I know.
courage within me to do that, because
Right.
that is the ultimate,
It
ultimate
is.
of forgiveness. But
Yeah.
that's, he is freer for it. It doesn't mean he doesn't miss his wife or kids. There's nothing to do with that. But they made a movie of it, Let It Go.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's about, if we don't forgive, we get eaten up from the inside
Yeah.
out. And that's so important. How many people are wanting to have revenge, the anger? I don't know about you right now, but I'm seeing an escalation of
Hmm.
people on Facebook going off.
Yes.
And it's like
I
they're
know. And
combusting
it's
and
crazy because
frothing
they,
up the
yeah,
mouth.
they
Where's the love,
see,
baby?
I got words and I just, there were, forgiveness doesn't take a piece of your heart or
Mm,
soul. It brings peace to them.
yes. Yes.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And people think it's going to take something from
Right.
them, where
Or
it
that
only brings it.
they have to take something from someone else to get the
Right.
satisfaction. No, you know, what's the old saying about, go the blindness, poke an eye out, both of you will be blind in the end. But I think that's the thing is that human nature is wanting to revenge. It's
Yeah.
wanting to step into anger. And I think one of the things that we're looking at the present moment is such a high anxiety of this, of this hysteria that's being built up. And is how do you find that peace? How do you find that purpose amongst this turmoil? A wonderful monk called Michel Pascal is a
Yes.
meditator. You know him, he's wonderful. I think I recommended him to you. He takes people into Times Square to meditate amongst the chaos.
Hmm.
Be the mountain amongst the chaos. And I think this is something we need to find. And everywhere you're going to find, you've got to find your stillness within you that blocks everything else out. And you're going to have to explore what it is that
Yeah, it's
gives you
not.
that.
Yeah, it's never about finding a quiet place
Mm,
among the
no,
chaos
yeah,
to discover peace. It's discovering the peace among the chaos
yes,
of
yes,
everything,
yeah.
and that's how it really works. And yeah, there's always in the forgiveness, I always see like bars, or when you
Mm,
feel like you're in a cage and you
yeah.
can't get through that. And it does take, because you feel like you're condoning the person. But there was Dr. Sean DePiron does Project Forgive, and
Mm,
she's a good friend. And a good friend of hers had made a mistake and was drunk driving, killed a family,
mm,
and she did a documentary about this. And the families came together for forgiveness. And she did this exercise where she had everybody in the room pair up with somebody and said, "Who's somebody that you have not forgiven?" And then share that with the person you're talking to. And so everybody would do that. And they said, now tell that person what it is that if that person was to say something to you, what would you want to hear them say? And tell them what to say. And then they're going to be a proxy. They're going to become that person and do it. And the whole room broke down crying,
mm-hmm.
because they just needed to hear. There was
Yes,
no closure, or the person
right.
may have crossed over and they never finished this or closed the
Mm,
chapter, and they didn't even realize they've been carrying this
mm,
heavy book, all
yeah,
these chapters of that within their heart.
right.
And it was this release.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is something very, very important. If you want to know how you step into your soul, is that you do have to release things from your presence, from you're carrying around, that stops you from stepping into heart, stepping into the
Yeah.
knowledge of the soul. You cannot embrace the love and the truth while you're in anger and bitterness or revenge or
Right.
hate. It just, it's oil and water. It does not mix. So you have to be willing to take the journey to let it go, to step into forgiveness, step into love. And you can't love another until first you've found that love of self.
Yes, absolutely. And I look, there, if you really think about it, we're wired with all these different emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And even things that we like, why do we like sugar?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like coffee? It doesn't taste right, so you got used to drinking it. Or maybe you like the caffeine or whatever. But there's something there, even in the bitterness of coffee, that you enjoy. And just like emotions are wired up that way, it's just it has to be done in moderation.
Yes.
So you can't
Yes.
be angry all the time,
No.
but you're going to be angry occasionally.
Right.
You can't be lacking forgiveness all the time, but there's going to be moments where you might dip into that
Mm.
pool. It might stay with you for a while, but there also comes a point where you have to release those things. And we're
Yeah.
supposed to experience all these shades. And
Mm.
when I'm talking, especially to younger person, I explained this to my son. I had exchange students here too. And I said, you're 17, 18 years old. There's a lot of emotions, but you don't have all, you can see them all or feel them all, but you don't know how to play the music for them. It's
Right.
like having a broken keyboard that
Mm.
you've written this symphony, you're trying to play it on a broken instrument, and you can only play these notes, and you get really frustrated. But eventually you'll be able to play all the music. I just want you to know that I hear the music, even though your keyboard's broken.
Right.
I
Nice.
understand you. And
Mm-hmm.
that was enough. Then they're like, okay, I get it. Because you're trying to explain to somebody that can't play all the
Yeah.
music and they don't even know the difference between, they just have jealousy or envy,
Yeah.
but they don't have all the little shades in the
Right.
note, blue notes and
Mm-hmm.
nuances that are in between there, or the different types of instruments that can play those notes.
Mm.
And that's how
They
you
haven't got the full
develop it.
repertoire because they're still young. They're still finding their pieces to their puzzle. Let's say, be emotionally tuned in, but don't be emotional. Right.
Right.
So
And
the reason we get emotions is because it's an
yeah.
expression of what's happening to us at the time. So pay attention to that emotion, but don't get emotional about the emotion.
Right.
Right.
Well, this is for those of you that are parents out there to understand that it's okay not to be in alignment because you're playing on two different types of instruments
Yes.
and they're never going to be in tune,
Mm-hmm.
at least not till the person maybe turns 24.
Right.
That's kind of around the time when the brain gets wired up and it starts
Mm.
working right,
Right. Yeah. It starts settling down, and there's all the
Yeah.
hormone and everything else that goes with it as well. But
Yeah.
the other thing I think is where each of us a book of life. Some people are a few books of life. It just depends what their journey's been like, and we have to
Yeah.
look at all the different chapters that we have been in our life. And I
Right.
think sometimes just don't get stuck on a chapter. If you can't find an ending to that chapter, just
Right.
end it somehow. Move on to another chapter and write what you would like your beginning, middle, and end to be, because we don't
Exactly.
realize that we actually are in control of it. We're in control of the pen of our own life, not what
Mhm.
happens to us, but how we react to it and what we do with it.
Right. Exactly. And that's, when you write, and I love the metaphors, like just thinking about how a life chapter unfolds, and that no matter how a chapter starts, you should always try to end it with love in some
Yes.
way.
Yes.
And that's what life is like. And also keep in mind that your chapter is not over, your book is not fully written, and you still have a lot of story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So even though one chapter might be dark or
Mm-hmm.
might end like this, there's still the glimmer of hope. And hope is something that will never leave your side unless you choose to let go of it.
Yeah.
So when you hang on to it, and I love the three words like faith, love, hope, because every time I see those, it's a triangle
Mm-hmm.
in math sense, and it's a perfect triangle, an isosceles triangle that is the strongest architectural shape in
Yes.
nature.
Yes.
And the other thing about those three words, I mean, I really thought deeply about them and meditated on them. And I thought, where did they come from and how did they get created in that sense? And what's the true meaning behind them? And when I really thought about it, hope, for instance, there's no synonym,
Mm-hmm.
none. And hope really only exists when you hold on to it or believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is the belief that you
Mm-hmm.
hold on to create the hope.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that gets created love, which again has no synonym. Faith has no synonym. Hope has no synonym.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that are close.
Yeah.
You could say, I really, really like you,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not love.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing how those three pillars are in every religion, every race, everything on this entire planet, and everything in the universe. And it's what holds it all together. And they only exist when you believe in them.
Right. And I think, what we've also got to look at in life is you step into your faith, which is not a religion, right? You step into your faith and you hope that you are bringing about the love that will give other people faith in the circle constantly going on. If you want to bring about peace in the world, then be the peace. If you want to bring about love in the world, then be the love. If you want to see more kindness, be the kindness. The thing is we have to step into beingness to do-ness. right? Because we can't just go and do if we're not being. When you
Right.
are actually being it, the resonance of what you are doing in that love, in that hope, in that faith, in that love, that kindness, is what really pours into someone, lighting up their little candle within them and having them believe they too can step into it. And that's all we can do, is shed light on people's hearts and souls and have them see themselves, love them despite the hate for themselves, so they can start seeing what we love about them. And it is corny, I know, but love does cure all.
Well, as you were speaking, I kept seeing angels, and
Mhm.
it was really, what is the difference between a human and an angel? And angels just become the pure essence of that love, and that's all they ever see.
Right, right,
They
exactly.
only they don't see with their eyes anymore. They only
Mm.
see with their heart, and they only see all the beauty that you truly are.
And that's
And
when you are meditating and you're seeing an entity, an angel, whatever is coming to you, don't second guess it. Don't go, I must be losing my head. If you are seeing something, it means you've opened up your channel enough and you're ready for the
right,
information.
you're tuning in.
You're tuning in. You know, the thing about digital, you press the button and it goes to the next channel. When you've got the old, analog where you've
Yeah,
got to
that's what
turn the
it
knob,
feels like. That sometimes you
it's,
gotta
yeah, it's the
gotta
Harry
dial
Potter,
in.
the track between the station. That's what
Yeah,
we're looking for, is the cracks in between, because that's where the truth lies.
yeah,
And the truth is that, again, when people say I have a gut instinct and you don't know why, well, that's that divine truth speaking to you. You don't need to validate it or justify it, right? You don't need to. It
right.
is, and you trust the is. That's when
Yeah,
you know you've really made a connection. And I
right.
think this is, again, when we get out of the noggin. This is, you have to feel your knowledge. Now, I know for a lot of people, they're thinkers, analyzers, etc. I need to understand it. You can't understand it with head alone. We've got the 4 key personalities. And when you think
Yeah,
about it, soul, heart, spirit, mind, right? So if the soul is giving you the guidance that the heart resonates with, that the spirit steps into action, then the mind knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. You are now so in sync with yourself. All your chakras are lined up. You even
yeah.
find your posture changes. Everything about you sets yourself in a totally different aura. And it's step into it, trust it, because it really is beautiful.
Yeah, and I love the word trust too, because
Mm,
it's about trusting in the big picture.
yeah.
Trust in the big picture God paints for you, although you may never see the entire canvas. You
Mm-hmm.
need to trust that the image is beautiful,
Right. Yeah.
because it is.
It's putting a puzzle together without following the picture. Right?
Right.
It's just allowing you instinctual. This feels like it belongs here and this belongs here. And
Mhm.
what picture is coming alive here right before me?
Yeah.
I mean, let's put the manual down. There are
Hmm.
codes, there are ethics, there are beliefs. Those are the things you take with you in your love pack. But we don't need a manual, because, as I said, when you step out into that abyss, blind, deaf, and dumb, that's when you will hear, see, and feel what you need to see, what you need to feel,
Yeah.
what you need to do. And very often we have to understand we are here for a purpose. And if we get out of our own way,
Hmm.
our purpose will be shown.
Exactly. And the other is discovering that, a lot of when you struggle with purpose and
Mm-hmm.
understanding what that is, that's when everything sort of falls apart. And it's not that you need to ever figure out what that is. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to walk the path and to discover that you're on the right path. Because a lot of people ask and they say, how do I know that I'm on that right path?
Right.
Because each step that you take forward feels good,
Yeah.
brings joy.
Yeah.
Then you know you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep walking it.
But it's like you with the kids and the rainwater. You had no idea what that meant, but
Right.
you instinctually went around mentoring children. And then one day the waterfall thing again all came together. Ah,
Yeah.
now I get it, right? And
Yeah.
that's the thing, is if you've got a feeling that you want to go and do something, this
Yeah.
means something to me. I don't know why. Don't wait to understand why. Just go and do it. You'll then
Hmm.
understand why. So we don't get given the whole picture, because that's part of that trust, isn't it? You
Yeah.
get given a snippet of all you need to know right now. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to take it? Because there's still that human thing called free will.
Right. Well, that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that, and we're
Mm-hmm.
given that.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, I can choose whether I'm going to be angry or I'm going to do something, or I can choose not to, or I
Yeah.
can choose to share, or I can choose to be open. And those are all parts of that. And I realized that, the angel did give me that as well, as far as like a clarity on the free will part. Because
Right.
I said, okay, we're going to show you the whole playbook. We're going to show you what you're supposed to do. The choice is yours
Yeah.
to walk the path.
Right.
And you got to make the turn if you want to, because you're down in the weeds right now. You went down here. And it took me 5 years till the point where I felt like I stepped back onto the road. And that was the year that I actually chaired the seminar. So now I'm at, somebody stepped down and I needed to step in to save this organization and make sure that it was financially sound, because they were in the red. And I figured I can't do any worse than last year, so I can only look up, so I'll step into this. At the end of that seminar, we were in the black, financially sound. I'm in front of 750 people, all of the students and all their parents and all their siblings, and they're all there. And I was walking up to the mic, and that's when I felt the rush. Like, you're stepping onto your path right now. Like the angel presence was there or something. And as I turned, there were 3 young staff members who snuck out, went to the grocery store and got aluminum foil and made 2 angel wings for me and handed them to me.
How beautiful.
And I thought, yeah.
I'm being seen.
And I just looked up for a second like this. Then I looked out at the audience and I did my speech.
Yeah.
And they were crying. They were so inspired to go out and do something good in the world after that. And it was all driven. And it was just like, I just felt like Gabriel was standing there going, looking at Michael saying, yeah, I did my boy did me proud.
Exactly.
See, I told you he'd come around.
Yeah, exactly. You got into the zone through channeling, coming from the right purpose. And this is the thing, I'm constantly trying different paths. I will always explore. And if it ends up being a cul-de-sac, a dead end, or a wrong end, you again, your gut, your soul will tell you. You've got the experience. What did I learn from that? Because it was a wrong road. You learned this. So obviously that was a tool I needed in my kit. And then you just keep trying different roads until you find the right one. But when you find that right one, and it speaks to you, and you know that you're in that beautiful divine path, there is nothing else like it. There's nothing else you can do but that, because that is the chosen journey now. You're in sync, right?
And there are no coincidences. There's only guide incidences.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no coincidences where love is concerned, where divine love is concerned. Everything is in perfect synchronicity.
Right.
And I've thought, I've got, I got a degree in psychology. I've studied cosmology as well. So I studied the universe and programming and all those things. And I was thinking the other day, most of the universe is in darkness. But what stands out in that darkness is every light that we see in the sky.
Right. Yes.
And every light that we encounter on this plane.
Yeah.
And it's there, like the whole of everything around us, and why planets are round, because as above, there is below, in the sense that what we're having here on Earth is part of the bigger picture. We're all part of the same thing. And every element's always been here, always was here, and always will be here. You and I are made from that.
Right.
Therefore, we are already being shown we're eternal.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
In some way or another.
Right. In some way or the other. I mean, I went for a phase in my life where I was desperately unhappy, and I felt very trapped in the darkness. And it was trying to, and the thing is that leads you to an apathy, which I think is more dangerous than anger or anything else. But there was that speck of light that, and finally one day that light got bright enough, and of course you come out into the light and it's a bit blinding. You constantly feel chased by the shadow of the darkness. But then I realized what the darkness meant to me. And for me, my traveling, my meditation is going up into that beautiful space, because there is everything and nothing all at once. It is everything you need to know, nothing you need to know. You are not in body, you are just in spirit, and you're wrapped up in this darkness with the light within you. You are that light. And it is so peaceful.
There's words that come when you're mired in the shadows of despair. Know that there is always a higher light source behind any darkness. You just need to turn around to see it.
Yeah.
And when you have that darkness that's around you, I realize that it is not darkness that creates light. It is light that creates darkness. Because without the light, the darkness would not exist.
Right.
So when you can step out, and if you think about that, where the light is shining down upon your back and you're looking at the shadow.
Yes.
If you just step to the side, there's light always enveloping you.
Right.
And that is the beauty of life. And I also got another, you'll like this quote, which was from, it's like one of their tongue-in-cheek quotes from the angels, but it's, angels always win a battle with the darkness because their weapon of choice is light. When you add light together, things get brighter. And when you add darkness together, nothing changes. The only thing that changes the darkness is light, because it eliminates it.
Yeah. The light shines the truth. And the one thing the darkness doesn't like is truth. Because it hides things in the dark. And when we hide things in the dark and we're not willing to face that truth, that's when we feel trapped.
But when do they get revealed? When you shine light upon them.
Exactly.
And it gets revealed to you. So when you trust in the light of the metaphor of light, as well as the visual analogy of it. And I look at it this way, that light is the only other thing in the universe that also travels at the speed of love. That's what brings the light to a situation.
Yeah. Yes. And when you come across people that are in pain, sometimes all you can do in that time is send them a vibration of love. You're maybe not there to help them in any other way than just sending them some vibration of love.
Right.
And because they're in a journey, they're in a process, they're maybe not ready to hear answers. But if you send that beautiful vibration of love upon them, they don't realize they're being fed, and it will help shed light on their own hearts. And sometimes that's the only way you can help someone.
Exactly. And it's just being there. Sometimes it's just a kind word.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just an expression on your face and sharing a smile that can make a difference in bringing that light.
Every drop of kindness becomes an ocean of love.
Yes.
And
we're all meant to swim in it.
Yes. And it's fun. It's wonderful. It's so peaceful, and it's so knowledgeable, because when you do feel and listen from the heart, the truth that you get will set you free, and it will guide you forward. And, it doesn't mean you're not going to experience hurt or pain along the way, that you're still not going to run into things. It just means you're going to know in which state of being to step into to handle it. And another thing that you're going to go through, because all of these things are here just as part of our toolkit, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. And understanding that angels are messengers that bring us a message, but it's up to us to deliver it.
Yeah.
Or walk the path or do it.
Yeah.
That's why they're called messengers, because they bring you those items.
It's the soul teacher, as a spiritual counselor, people say, well, do it for me, or show me how to do the steps. I said, all I can do is prepare you for your path. I can prepare you for your path with the tools and wisdoms. I can pour my love into you and show you what I see within you. But it's up to you to take the journey. To discover that for yourself. That I can't do, right? Then it gets very frustrating, because can't you see what I see? But no, they can't. They have to awaken to that in their own time.
Exactly.
So now you have a TV show along with Lisa. Tell us about that and what kind of people you're having on.
Yeah, it's the Mindset Reset Show. So it takes both halves, a foot in both worlds, the business world and the spiritual world, and bringing those two together.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a mindset, it's how you process things. But when you get a reset on it, it's looking at it in a different way. And each guest that we've had on has shared something where their perspective on life or their life was dramatically shifted to a higher level through that.
Yes.
Some of the guests for season 1 are Dr. Joe Vitale, who's the star in The Secret. He's written like 57, 60 books. I don't know.
I think he writes in his sleep.
Yeah, pretty much. I have one of his books here. It's actually right over. Got 2 of his books. He gave me a couple of his books, but he gave me Hypnotic Marketing and also Anything is Possible. Those are a couple of his, he was guided to give me. There's also Dee Wallace, who was the Steven Spielberg's E.T. She was the mom. She's also been in the movie 10 with Dudley Moore back in the day. She's been in countless horror films too. And I asked her about that, and she said, Robert, in order to face your fear, you have to become it. And that's kind of why she had that. But she's also had, an amazing shift, and that's when her husband passed away. And then she wrote the book Bright Light. There is Kevin Sorbo, who was in Hercules, and he did the movie. He was the star of God Is Not Dead. And then he just did a movie that his wife wrote, and he directed, and his whole family starred in, which is Let There Be Light. We have Arielle Ford, her major relationship specialist. It was amazing because we talked about manifesting your soulmate. The mindset of that, and just really what relationships are, and once you get past the honeymoon phase of a relationship. So there's a lot of great information, and just so many beautiful guests have shown up, and we're really excited. It's going to start rolling out I think next week. It'll start airing, so it goes on traditional cable. You can also get it on pretty much any television appliance device, like Amazon Prime. It'll be on that. It'll be on Roku, Thompson Smart TV. Then there's a TV to Go app. So if you go to the website, it has a listing of like every platform that we're on, but it's pretty much everything that's in 164 countries. So, you'll probably be able to catch it somewhere.
Right, exactly. And the URL for that is?
There's what?
The site?
Oh, yeah. MindsetResetTV.com. So if you want to learn a little bit more, there's a trailer up there. We have just some amazing guests showing up so far.
And of course, there are people that have already taken their journey. And these are the best kind of people to have, because in their reset, that was their discovery. Their self-discovery of what they were here for and stepping into that meaningful purpose. I always say it's about them becoming their instrument, and then perfecting that instrument to join the orchestra in harmony to create a symphony that resonates out. And this is the thing, it's so wonderful to hear their stories of where they were. Some of them, again, have been horrific, and you wonder how they could even carry on. Yet, they all have said they wouldn't change anything, because who and what they're doing today is beyond meaningful. That they're really, a lot of them, there's no articulation to living into that soul and heart space and being a part of that in the world.
And in season 2, we have a NFL player. So he's a former NFL player. And what we're going to talk about is really a lot of people that have careers like that. And since they were little kids working toward that, and then they get on the injured list, or they retire or something, and then they get depressed and suicidal, and it's done because and he transcended that. So that's his message, is how do you get from here, my highest level, to the higher level of really, and giving back is his mantra. So it's going to be amazing. If you're a New England Patriots fan or a Cleveland Browns fan, I think he was on those teams. I'm not going to say who it is yet.
You're a teaser.
Yeah.
And also, how do people get hold of your books?
Yes. Well, if you go to guidetothesoul.com, there's links to interviews and all sorts of things up there. So the books are on there, and they link off. You can go to Amazon. If you just search my name or Soul Cyphers, it'll come up on there.
Excellent. And do you have a regular site with just everything on it?
Yeah, guidetothesoul.com.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
That's me. Yeah.
It's been great having you back on here again. Always
Well,
love
thank
the
you so
soul
much.
talk. And the thing is, some people go, but where did you cipher the soul? We did, because we talked soul talk all the way through this.
Yeah, well, it's decoding your life, and I think we've
Yes.
provided a lot of decodes in there, so you should be able to reprogram something.
Yeah, exactly. And the gain is allowing your thought process to be felt. Don't just get stuck in the head, because this is a treadmill, and you've got to remember it's a database of knowledge, and very often it's outdated knowledge that's going on in there, and you need to reprogram.
And some of it's corrupted now.
Yes, a lot of viruses going on up there.
Yeah.
And the thing is when you actually understand your knowledge, because now you have the wisdom to understand what that knowledge is for. That's when you've really truly stepped into that calling, and then it's like that aha moment of, now I understand.
Yeah.
And we also realize it's so simple. Why did it take us so long?
Yeah, sometimes when I'm saying, I'm talking about some of the inspirational, and I feel like I'm saying 1 + 1 = 2.
Mm-hmm.
And people are, they're having these profound moments of awe, and they're looking at me, and I'm saying, I just said 1 + 1 = 2.
Yes.
But they're trying to do calculus to get there, and going all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, it's that simple. I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the most profound quote I wrote was shared by probably 1 million people in 48 hours. And it was the simplest of words of all the things I've ever written. Just, love is a simple word, yet it simply means everything.
Right. And
that summed up all 61,000 other words.
Exactly.
One simple quote.
Right. And that's the thing. Simplicity is when you step into your inner honesty, your inner love. Yes. When you actually have truly stepped into what really love means, that divine presence of why you're here, what your purpose is. And I say purpose a lot because we all need one. We're all here for a reason. When you step into it, and you're stepping into it with love, and you're doing it with love, and you are that love, people then feel that love. They may not always comprehend the words because they're not quite ready, but my God, did they feel it? And so you've left them with a feeling inside of them that will grow. Yeah, that will grow. So never feel you're speaking to a brick wall. And, because somewhere along the line there were cracks, and that love went in there. And it will grow. It will grow.
I've seen it. Yeah. I know. I've been there.
Yes. There's also that big word, patience. You're not going to have an impact overnight. It's planting the seeds of love, watering and nurturing them, and then just step back and see what beautiful garden grows. Right? Yeah. And we've all got that capability. It's in with all of us. It's what we're here for. And so when we step out of the hate and the anger and the disconnect and the anxiety, and we step into this presence, it's your reason for being. And now you can really, truly see what you're here for. And of course, it's to raise that vibration around the planet of love, because the planet needs it, the universe needs it. And this is how we're meant to live here, in love and kindness of each other. Wonderful to have you on again, Robert.
Yes, and so much, and we'll have some reciprocity, because you're going to have to come on our show, of course. Oh,
wouldn't I love that? And I've got Lisa
we got to finish this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I've got Lisa coming on next week.
Exactly.
And as I said, we had a talk where with the wings were flapping, we were taking flight. So I'm really looking forward to that. So stay tuned, folks. I'll put the link here on his link, and you'll see that too. And yes, I would love to, because it's always so wonderful to be amongst soul light people. That have stepped into that soul awareness, because it's what makes the world go round.
That's right. Makes the whole universe go around.
So, love, sweet love. Yeah. Thanks so much, Robert.
Well, thank
Wonderful
you.
having you here again. Folks, please tune into the TV show, read his books, just step into the presence. Look at those 61,000 words that he's written, because I guarantee you something is going to speak to you. And all we need to do is just open you up a little bit, let the light in, and boy, all of a sudden it's going to be aha.
For more wonderful shows folks, like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.